Hey everyone, welcome to the UFO broadcast. Before I begin, I basically would like to mention that this video and podcast and of course here is going to be timestamped. So please use the timestamps to get to the subject that you would like to hear. So this way I'm not wasting your time and I don't have to read some angry comments about me talking too much or not getting to the point. So anyway, this video, I'm kind of obviously going to be editing it later. Not exactly sure how long and what I will cover in which order, but basically just want to cover about where I've been, why I haven't been on for a while, the things that I've been doing while I was gone, and then of course cover some other UFO and alien related subjects. So I guess let's start with the first one. YouTube about a couple of months ago had given me 2 strikes. Both of them are community strikes, and one was just kind of a warning, or saying, "Oh, I might not have known that I had whatever some material that goes against the community guidelines," and the other one was basically saying, "Okay, well, this is the second time we had to tell you, so." It's still a verbal or just a written note that's saying, hey, you have a community strike. After this one, they're going to, I guess, suspend the account for 7 days. And then after that, get second, third, and then they close the account down. But anyway, both of them one was with Sherry Wild, and the other one was with Mary Rodwell. Both of these I've done a while back, but I don't know if it's their algorithm or if they're just coming late to doing all their checks. It's all, I guess, really relating to the, let's just call it the Fauci ouchie. And so they don't like those kind of subjects on YouTube if it doesn't go with the main narrative. So what I basically did, part of my time not being, not being on, I had, let me shift this over for you. I spent all my time basically transferring my entire library over to Rumble, so that this way, in case the YouTube channel goes down for whatever reason, whether I'm suspended temporarily or permanently, I have the entire library available here. And so you can go back and rewatch everything or whatever it is that you would like to see again. I'm using Twitch. I mentioned that before as streaming. So whenever I do stream, it would be YouTube and Twitch at the same time. If YouTube is down, of course, it'll only be being live streamed on Twitch. So this way I can still have that interaction with you all and reading your comments. And if there's a live guest, you can still ask questions, but it will not be on YouTube, unfortunately. So I really encourage you. And I know YouTube is very convenient for everybody. Most people love YouTube, but they're really kind of turn into little communist pricks, at this point. And so I would just suggest, if you would like to still follow this channel, or you just now found out about this channel, the best way to basically still keep up with what's going on when I am broadcasting and streaming, it would be Rumble, for videos that are going to be on there for a lot longer, for however long possible, unless Rumble kind of changes their rules and then they start giving me trouble, but they would be online basically forever. And Twitch would be for more of that live streaming interaction. Also, what I do have is Telegram, and I know this is right down here is where I wrote the last message to all of you about I'm getting over a cold, and as soon as I'm done, I will be able to do these shows again. And although I don't post very much on there, because for one, I don't want to annoy you with a lot of things. If there's some things that I find interesting and I have the time, I'll post it. But this is mainly to basically stay in touch with the channel. And I can't promise you that every time that I'll answer, but I promise that every time I will see a message that you post on here, because it's directly connected to my phone. So anytime anyone writes something in some of the comments or response to something I've posted, I will always see it. But that's also part to just stay in touch in case something else happens. So basically, Telegram, Rumble, and Twitch are my alternative to if and when YouTube finally, I guess, just gets rid of this channel. Because some people what they've done is they would redo their channel and they open up a separate channel on YouTube and have to re-upload everything. And I had thought about that ahead of time, and I just don't want to mess with that, because I don't want to be on a platform where somebody just constantly nitpicks every little thing. And if there is an opposing point of view doesn't allow it, why would I want to keep on staying on there? So apparently the guests that I've had and the things that I've said were not, I guess, troublesome enough for them to do more, but you never know. So anyway, I really do hope you check that out. All the links also are in the description below this video, where you will see Telegram, Rumble, Twitch, and all the podcasts on Spotify. I have a Spotify on there for right now. I just pulled up a few. This is on Amazon and on iHeart. I also have Google. So then you can also listen to all these, because within a day or two after I'm done with the show, I usually convert them into audio files and then upload them to all these different channels, podcast channels as well, so you can listen to those. And recently I've had some issues regarding the merchandise that I had with Teespring. YouTube is either YouTube or Teespring. I don't know exactly what's going on. They're not allowing me to have to post all the products on there. They only do about half, and I'm hoping that it's more of a technical glitch. And I've been going back and forth with a Teespring representatives now for 3 months roughly. And just recent email I just wrote, it's like, hey, it's been 3 months. Is there anything that can be done about this? But anyway, I have also in the description below, I have a link to the UFO Hub Teespring store. So if any of you are interested in any of the merchandise that will support this channel, this will be the link to go to. And the link is also in the description below. There's this cup, for example, the one that I have right here, and I drink from that all the time, and it's one of my favorite. And so this would be another way if you would like to support the channel, because it helped me a lot, because during this time, I had a subscription for the website. I had what was it? Also the subscription for the I guess Spreaker is the facilitator that posts all of these podcasts on all these different platforms. All those yearly renewals needed to get done, and thanks to all of you that have donated and had purchased some of this merchandise, I was able to use that money and renew that and keep it going. So I really appreciate that. It helps a lot. So this way, as I've mentioned many times before, I don't have to constantly go to my wife going like, hey, do we have some extra money to move around? So thank you very much for your support regarding that. All right, let's see here. So as the title says, UFO disclosure has happened. Now what? What I basically wanted to go through is to give you just a few of these documents and some other videos that have come out since. Some of these you probably have seen or maybe heard on this channel, but basically they have admitted to the existence of UFOs. And when I say they, I mean particularly the government. And they've not only admitted it, but then also have gone as far as opening up UAP, unidentified area phenomena, basically offices, to where now witnesses and data can be submitted to that office and collected and analyzed in these different criteria that have set forth, which is something unspeakable before, because you couldn't even get the government to admit that UFOs existed, and now they've gone this far. And so let's shift over again to the other windows. What I would like to cover first is this document is the preliminary basically assessment that they've come out June 25th, 2021. And if you really think about it, this was the first time the US government admitting basically that UFOs exist. Before, it was denial, denial, denial on every step of the way. And so they basically went as far as reporting on it regarding what they possibly could be. They were even writing, I think, let me see where exactly in this document, that they had 144 recorded reports right here. And basically just, they're wanting to look at to see that this is not a threat by another government, or that they just, bottom line, as the military always, says, does not create a national security or national security issue. And so I guess they always fall back to that. But the point is, they are now looking at it and saying, okay, there's possibly several different ways that this has to be looked at. This could be technology from a foreign government that they're not aware yet. This could be a natural phenomena, yada, yada, yada. But they're finally looking at them. So this was what I would call the official date, where they officially came out and said, we call them UAPs. UAPs is not necessarily a new term. There's some documents that you can find. I think they were like in the 50s and 60s, reference to the very first UAP. But I think they just want to try to stay away from UFOs because, like with everything else that they did prior 70 years, they want to, it's a loaded term because UFOs usually means it's alien, piloted by people not from this planet, and so on. And so at this stage, I don't know why, but at this stage, it seems like they still want to distance themselves and still kind of quote unquote apply science to kind of say, okay, well, we're going to approach this scientifically. Let's get reports of what was seen at what time, what place, and all these other things that I think that's one of the reasons why it didn't garner this much attention, because we were already through movies and other things pre-programmed that anything like this exotic has to be alien. So when the government didn't come out saying, hey, aliens are visiting, everyone was pretty much like, okay, let's go back to our day-to-day life. I hope that most of us that have been into this, we recognize this as like, oh, this is disclosure, but it wasn't disclosure of aliens. And so therefore it, I guess, didn't have that much traction with the normies or people that just live their normal day-to-day lives. And so what they did after this, there was then another document. I have some links here. It was the HR 4350, National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 22, and it was signed December 27th, 2021. So the bill has passed, and according to this bill, in the section 1652 of this establishment of office to address unidentified aerial phenomena, it just basically states that no later than 80 days of signing of this bill, this office has to be established. And they go through and basically just setting forth a bunch of criteria, what to develop, what kind of data will be taken in, how it will be, I think it says how it will be categorized. And basically it's not that long of a list, but basically maybe 10 paragraphs total, just establishing exactly what this office will do. So that's a pretty big thing for the government to come out and basically just do this, considering they didn't even accept that UFOs as anything real. They also have, what do I have that? I think it's right. You have a bunch of windows open. There was CNET did a condensed 10 minutes version of this congressional UFO hearing, and they I'm not going to play the audio because of copyright. I didn't want to get any strikes, but I'll just play this video in the background. They just basically talked about what it is that they know so far. They showed some footage that's been recorded on some of these Navy carriers and what it could potentially mean. But it's always just my impression from this is we still don't know what they are. We're going to look into it. So it wasn't anything extraordinary to where you would just kind of hang on every word that they say. But at least it's also another big event to have a congressional hearing on UFOs and basically what it is that the government have at this point. And so that's basically pretty much it that I wanted to cover regarding disclosure, because if you can, I think you can possibly like clip this in the video or make a clip out of it or share this to anyone else that's kind of like your average friend that's kind of interested in this, but doesn't exactly know where to go or how to fully start, to show them about, hey, there's these government documents that have been released, bills have been passed, congressional hearings have been happening. We have an office for unidentified aerial phenomena, and it's basically officially part of the government that now it will just be analyzed in their own way. I can't say that they're going to approach this in the same way that experiencers have, and most of us that have been researching this for decades, but at least for those that are constantly like waiting for the government to do something, this is something. It's something that we can say, all right, they've acknowledged it. Let's see what happens out of this. I think it might be another maybe 10, 15 years. That's just a total guess. I just a hunch that it might take that much for them to maybe acknowledge more, to maybe even hint that, hey, this is quite possibly not from this earth. And so maybe, I guess we should be happy that it's not 70 years, but it's still a lot quicker, than the initial, I guess, estimate of how long it would take for them to just admit they're alien. And okay, so the other thing that happened while basically I was gone was there was an interview that I did. Oh, let me cover one more thing. This is a clip from the Joe Rogan show, and it's Michio Kaku, the physicist that basically then now is talking about what has changed for UFOs now be taken seriously by them, of what exactly happened, which we all know it's the TikTok footage that made them start looking at this in a different way and have more, as they call it, more reputable sources, and people looking at this, which to me personally, it's I don't take it personally, but it does sound like an insult, because it kind of implies that, oh, the rest of us are just crazy, so not to be taken seriously, because only if you have some kind of degree and only if you are of stature of such people, only then, can you be taken seriously. And almost people that had experiences, all they wanted to say, it's like, hey, something extraordinary happened to me, this is what happened, and that's it. Very few really consider, compared to actual experiencers, try to make this about money and selling books, in the, I guess, in the way that would make the field look bad, but most people have just simply if they did write a book, it's like, hey, this is what happened, this is what I experienced. They put it out there and left it at that and continue living their lives while they still had day jobs and doing other things, so that just kind of left it as a chapter of their life and moved on. But also, if you're interested in seeing this and his point of view, it's about 15 minutes long to see what it is now, what happened exactly for them to start looking into UFOs and take it more seriously. Of course, all these links for the documents for this video and the most of the things that I can share, I'm going to share the links in the description below, also on the podcast too, so that way you can just go and click on these links and go and read these documents yourself to see more in details what it is that they covered. And so also while I was mentioned, while I was gone, I did an interview with Nick Pope a while back. It was about the Calvine, or Calvine, I think he calls it, UFO incident. and this was about 6 years ago that we did this interview. But he was talking about, if I remember correctly, hikers in Scotland that basically witnessed this diamond-shaped UFO and a jet flying by it and whatever else happened there, and that there was supposed to have been pictures and a very clear picture of a UFO. Usually they're always just blurry and it's hard to tell what it is, but that this was something then that the government had taken and all the pictures disappeared, all of this was gone up until recently. And so what happened was that I have, this is just a Google search and I found the pictures here. So this photo, and for those that are just listening, it's basically a rendition. I don't know if it was Nick Pope or somebody else that made a CGI or just recreated the graphic of where the diamond-shaped UFO was in relation to the airplane and how it looked, as in the initial photo. And so this was recreated because hence the government had taken a picture away. But the release recently, this was supposed to be the actual picture taken and that they witnessed at that time. And so Nick Pope in his Twitter feed about 2 days ago mentioned something that he can't confirm this for sure to say, yes, this is the photo taken. So, but it's what was released by this Craig Lindsay, I believe, to basically to show the original pictures. However it got released, I don't know if it was leaked or finally released. I apologize that I don't have that detail, but I just wanted to make you aware that you can check that out. I guess that whatever information they had, it had come out. They have this picture, and I guess with everything else, we'll just wait and see to get more confirmation. So anyway, so that's regarding the UFO and what's been happening. I'm sure there's been some other things out there that I could talk about maybe some other time, because it's not the only thing that has occurred. But it's not my main part. Just occasionally, if I need something to cover for the UFO Hub, if I don't have a guest and whatnot, I would go into more of these details. But usually it's not what I do. My main focus is to do interviews. And so I have a few interviews with a few people in line to contact and set them up. And I promise I will be doing that very soon, so that way I can have more content for you out there to learn more. But also, please keep in mind, and I've said this in the past before as well, this channel is not for entertainment. It's not like a show where I just worry about putting out more shows or more views. Initially, the reasons, for those that have listened to my reasons why UFO Hub happened, how UFO Hub happened, it's the first video I've ever did to the very last video that I ever did is information that really is kind of timeless, to where you can learn from every single show, no matter how long ago or recent it was published. It will still be information that you can use on your path to researching UFOs, or on your path to contact, or whatever it is that you've been working on. That's what I want you to understand. This is the whole that's the whole point of this channel, and not to think that this is just only, okay, when is the next video coming out and so on, because then, as I mentioned before, you'll just look at it as entertainment, and it's not going to get you any closer to an understanding of what UFOs are about, or any closer to contact for yourself. Okay, so the other subject we have in the list, I just want to make sure I got everything covered. So the other subject is I joined the Masons. And I know it's such a controversial subject. A lot of people have many different opinions of what that's about. For me, it was important because, for one, just like with UFOs, I went down my own path, my own way, to find out what's it all about before I can make a decision, before I can just so I have some peace for myself instead of just believing someone else's story or having to ask someone else about this. And so an opportunity came about to basically join the Masons, and it's funny how it happened. It was actually over a year ago. My wife and I were at our town parade for Christmas, and the temple or the lodge, the Mason Lodge, had its door open, and they were basically just offering chili, which was really good chili, by the way. And so we were talking about, hey, let's go get some chili. And also her grandfather, and for those of you that didn't know, Dolores Cannon's husband was a Mason at that lodge, or Mason period. And he, there were some pictures of him there, and my wife and most people don't get to go in and see them unless the doors are open or people are welcome to come in and see. And so we thought it was an opportunity to go ahead and do that. And when we did, we were looking around, and we had some chili, and like I said, it was delicious. And we were just looking at the different pictures that were there. There were two pictures of her grandfather. And so as I was looking at one of the Masons was approaching me and was just asking me which one I was looking at. And I was like, oh, so-and-so is my wife's grandfather. And so we got talking, and so they invited me to come back during a regular, I guess, Masonic meeting, so that way I could, if I'm interested more, if I'm more interested into it, I can just then petition to join. And so I did. I came back, I think a week later, and so we got to talking, and just I liked what I was seeing, but it was actually also something that many years ago, I was thinking about seeing how I could join, and my wife at that time, especially our kids even being younger than what they are, she didn't just want to be left alone where I can just go off and have lodge meetings, and then she's stuck with the kids. But now they're old enough and things have calmed down enough to where when this opportunity presented itself, she was like, go ahead, and there was no problem. And so I know it was funny because I was talking to my parents when they came to visit, and then there was perfect example about how things are out there, how they present it out there online. Because my mom was like, oh, why did you join the Masons? It's the Masons that have created these vaccines that have killed these people, And I was like, where are you reading this, Because I was telling them, for one, for the type of person that I am, I wouldn't join an organization that is like that, for one. Two, there's, a very reputable person, and one that I never got to meet, but it was a person that's remembered very fondly, which is my wife's grandfather. He was a very good person and an upstanding, man in the community. And why would he be joining the Masons if they were doing things like that? And so by me having joined and having gone through the process and basically was, achieved or basically was raised in a sublime degree of a Master Mason, I got to see what the process was, what is exactly, what it exactly goes on. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Obviously, there's some things that are secret that I can't divulge to you because, what kind of person would I be if I can't, if I can't uphold the promise, to keep certain secrets. And there are more secrets about basically the establishment of a Mason itself than actually something that needs to be, aired out there, for everyone else to see. Because as I was going through the process later on, I learned it was funny because I do UFO Hub podcasts, and the way basically the kind of type of subjects I cover and talk about, there was talk about potentially not accepting me because they thought I was there to just secretly kind of divulge everything that was done behind closed doors. And so that it was funny to me to know that was one of their concerns. After they met with me and we talked and they checked out some of the videos and things like that, they got to have, have an idea what kind of person I was, and basically then made a decision on those long interviews and those meetings that I was basically meeting with them to determine, is this somebody who we want as a brother or not? And so anyway, it's been quite a journey. I would personally recommend people to, if it's something that they desire, to join Masons, because it is a lot about honor, who you are as a person and who you are as a person to the community. And if you were a troublemaker, if you had issues with the law and all these other things, you cannot become a Mason. It's for one, difficult by those standards, and two, the community will kind of vet you because they want to know who you are before you join and get going with the process. And so, but it was funny to me how I can definitely see one of these times when it was time for lodge, and I was approaching the building, and there was a few of us that were approaching the door. So there was the sheriff, the town doctor, not the chaplain. I'm never good with these names. Like the church main person, what are they called? Like the priest. And then there's me, and we're all walking into the same door. And if I was someone who doesn't know anything about Masons, or maybe just know the things that is being talked about online, I would definitely see it's like, what in the world is going on there? All these pillars of the community are kind of converging all together in one spot, meeting behind closed doors. What in the world is going on? And so we had another, I have some pictures for you too. We had another kind of funny moment where there was, in Oklahoma, the Indian reservation, they have their Indian lodge, a Masonic lodge as well. And what they do is they go around the country and just basically, they call them the master degree team. And so they perform the master degree, and it's of course all done behind closed doors. You can't really, unless you're a Mason, can't be in there. But what happened was, this was an event set up for many different lodges around Arkansas and even different states. At the end of the day, I think it was Masons from like 7 different states and places that had come to Huntsville to witness this. And what had happened is that the lodge in Huntsville is not big enough, so the inside of the lodge itself had to be moved to the school, to the high school gym, and basically recreate the chairs and basically the altar and everything else that goes in there had to be then recreated just on a larger scale so that more people can witness. And so out of all the people, we would initially had thought, why don't we just bring trucks, take them all take all the different stuff in, and everyone takes a little bit and transfer it over to school. Well, I said, I have a 16-foot trailer, the UFO hub trailer, that we can just put everything in and just in one trip make it down there. So obviously it made sense. So I pulled up, and I'll show you this picture in a second. I pulled up in the front of the lodge and opened the door. And so you see the Masonic lodge with the UFO hub trailer, and right at that time, on that day, across the street, there was a bank that organized like this huge cornhole tournament, and there were like, I don't know, several hundred people there, and we were just laughing and just kind of joking to each other. It's like, boy, the rumors are going to start now, the Masons and UFOs, and it was just kind of funny, and I'm having this picture and so overlay for you to see. And anyway, it's one of these things to where unless you join, unless you go through the process yourself and you see what it is, it's you would just always have assumptions. And it really is only like after I was done with the process and I went online could I see a lot of these different stories and things that are out there about Masons, but it's so misinterpreted and just flat out lies that, when you know the truth, that, how do you combat that? How do you combat that? Because it's just one person's word, against another. So you can go online, make up whatever you want, and then a Mason tells you, no, it's not like that. It's like, see, they lie about all these things. So anyway, that was a process that took a while. And along with everything else that was going on, I had to basically kind of stop with these shows and concentrate on that, to go through the process and do whatever I had to do. Because also at the same time, as some of you know, I'm also a ham radio operator. So I was working on setting up my ham shack and getting that going, because I love to just listen to radio, they call it play radio sometimes. Just get on the different frequencies and talk. Well, I only have a technician license, and you need a general license to be able to talk some of these other frequencies and with other people around the world. So then I've been needing to study that. It's a booklet about this thing. It involves a lot of math and a lot of these different things. So I don't do well when I have so many things on my shoulders and my mind is not clear. I just can't get all of that done and keep up with the shows. Anyway, so that's basically an explanation of what else I was doing, why I joined the Masons, and that was one of the major and important parts why I couldn't go on with the show here. But the other part, I think I'll just leave it at this. I don't know that I want to cover anymore. I want to call it multi-generational contact. What I'm talking about is that Whitley Strieber has discussed this about, how other family members had contact and other contactees had talked about them and then their children having contact. And so long time ago, I had a inkling that eventually this would be happening to me and my family. And I had an understanding enough to not fear it if and when that time comes. But there's still something that just still can't prepare you for the actual process while things are going on. And what I mean with that is that I was talking to my wife about this to see whether or not we even should be talking about it, because my children are not, we don't push any of this like UFO alien stuff on them, needing to understand and learn and all this other things. We simply do, or I do what I need to for my reasons. If my children want to do something else, so be it. And so we never discuss these things with them. And, for what goes on in the family, I don't want this to kind of then be out there online on the internet, them not being into this at all. But then there's a story that, dad told about, me, and, now people at work know about it and other people know about it, but they're not really into it. Anyway, those were our thoughts of, wanting to avoid that, because one of my kids is about a year and a half, the other one is 5.5, and the other one is 15.5. So we have quite a span. And so whatever I do or say, we didn't want that to kind of make things more difficult for them in the future. Well, we talked about it, and I thought, it's not something that I think would hinder their lives too much if they just, don't care about it. And anytime I talk to my kids, I always talk to them about not taking things so difficult. If people are saying certain things, to not take it too hard all the time, and just crumble, by words being said, And so I'm hoping by the time they're adults, they're just going to know that this is just a story Dad told, or this is crazy, and move on. So anyway, without any further ado, I want to get into that, and I want to call up my wife, because during this process, there's also her that's with me and our youngest son, or our middle son, that we're going through this process of contact happening and him having to deal with it. That, of course, that involves the whole family, because him dealing with it is also me and her dealing with this. And so let me preface this first before I continue, and then I'll bring her in and we can talk about this. Or Or better yet, let me just bring her in as well, so that from the beginning she can also add to some of the things if need to, if I've forgotten or have kind of messed up my order. So here on the other line on Telegram, I have my wife Christy. Hey babe, say hi.
Hello.
Okay, so I'm very happy that she did this, because she didn't want to do this at all, didn't want to be on here, but I really appreciate it because, like I said, just because of my own my own ability to be able to recollect this the best I can. All right, so we were driving, and as always, my wife, she reminds me of, hey, you have a P.O. box in town, go check it out. So we drove out there, and she happened to get out, check the box. She came back in, and usually it's just junk mail, not much there. But this time, some of the other book companies or publishing companies, if they have a new author, they send me a book to look at and maybe potentially consider to interview them. Well, anyway, so this book, do you remember this, babe? It had that, that ominous looking alien on the book, and Orion saw it, and he's like, "What's that?" Do you remember that?
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then we were like, this is an alien. And he's like, an alien? We're like, yeah. And he's like, can I have it? And we're like, no, just, Dada, Dada meaning me, I need it for work, and I'll give you a different book. And he's like, okay. So the main reason why I didn't want to give that to him is because it had, that just, dark, angry looking alien on there. I forgot what the name of the book was, but we came home and we have several different copies of, the Dolores' books. And I had the one, what was the book of hers that had that alien on there that was just a normal looking gray?
It's the Custodians. It's the older cover.
Right. And so anyway, So I give them that book, and he said, oh, I love it. And so please keep in mind, when he plays, he just goes to play, and let's say if he's on the playground, he just plays on the playground. When he's in his room, if there's a toy, he would just play and use the toy and the way it's directed, but not like make up necessarily things on his own, especially at that time. He was just kind of this, I want to call it, straightforward kid. Wouldn't you agree, babe?
Yeah.
And so anyway, what was very interesting is that we gave him that book, and he's like, I'm going to go to bed with this book. And so the first night, and this was actually the very first time in all his 5 years that he's been alive, he just had these night terrors. The first night he was just screaming or yelling at somebody, and just really, just woke us both up. And we were initially just wondering what's going on. And I remember I was just kind of, took him in and just kind of gave him a hug. And I was telling him, I said, it's okay, Dada's here. Don't be afraid. And I was just waking him up gently just to know, okay, we're here. Don't worry. And so anyway, that he would kind of calm down, but then he would get in that mode again and screaming. And so we were worried, but it's not something that necessarily was really thinking about until, was he saying something like people came to me, or he was talking to people? Do you remember what he was talking about?
Well, I just remember that, because it was a couple nights in a row that he kept doing that, and it was almost like he was in a trance, and we couldn't get him to quit screaming until he realized it was us. And he kept saying something like he didn't want to be with the people. He just wanted to, because every time I would, try to get him to calm down, he kept saying, I don't want to be with the people. I just want to be with you. And then, I'd hold him and, and stuff. And then he would finally calm down and go back to sleep. But other than he never emphasized exactly what he was talking about. He just kept saying he just wanted to be with me, that he didn't want to be with the, I guess, other people. Is the only other thing that he would say. Yeah.
Well, and so not it's basically so three days in a row of this. There's something about seeing your child suffering in some way or another. It just breaks your heart, and you want to try to do everything you possibly can. We had a suspicion that might be that that might be going on, meaning the contact. It's just that even though we know it's not something for us to fear, still can't help watching him react to things. So no different than, let's say, we go to swim, and often when when he was younger, not so much now, wanting him to jump in, and he would be deathly afraid. And like, how do I convey to him to just calm down? I'm here. I'll catch him. He doesn't have to worry about anything, right? But just seeing him being in that distress, I don't know that any parent can take that easily, no matter how much of an understanding there is. Anyway, so 3 days of this, I finally talked to you, remember? And I said, I'm going to call Donna Lynn. I've interviewed her several times, and she specifically talked about night terrors that she, basically interpreted them in that way for the longest time until she gained more of an understanding, and then it was, she wasn't so afraid of it anymore. So I called her, and we talked about an hour and a half, and unfortunately she said there's nothing she can specifically tell me to do to just, to help him out, other than he's just eventually going to have to get over this on his own if it continues, to understand that don't be afraid, and just to know that we are here for him, which I had kind of thought that anyway. And so we hung up there, but then remember I was talking to you, and I said, hey, how about we just take this book away for now, even because we weren't 100% sure what's going on. So whether it's an image that's causing something, on that book or within that book for him or whatever, we thought, let's just take it away and see what happens. So we took that book away on the third day. And so basically we had it, for the next 2 days, we kept it, and he just went to bed and he was sleeping just fine, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because we both had assumed that it had something to do with the book. Because once he had that book, that same night is when he started having the problems.
Right. And so what happened then, I think, was it a couple of days later when we were sitting in the living room? Do you remember when he came to you and he was talking to you, and you nudged me and said, hey, are you listening?
Oh, yeah, it was just a couple of days of him not having that book.
So anyway, I'm gonna let you tell the story. So basically, I'm sitting there and I'm looking. I've learned, if you heard our youngest in the background, there's noise going on all the time. So must be a dad thing. I just learned to block it all out. Sometimes Christy's talking to me and I have no idea. I was like, I need to know. You have to look at me in the face that I know that you and I are having a conversation. Otherwise, she gets so mad. She'll talk to me and I just totally block it out. Anyway, I'm sitting next to you. I have everything else blocked out, and then you nudge me.
Yeah, so Orion he kept asking ever since we took that book away. He kept asking, he wanted it back, and we kept trying to explain to him, the reason why he didn't need it right now. I had told him that I thought that maybe it was making him scared or something because he kept getting so upset at night. And then he was sitting there telling me that he kept telling me, I need the book. I really need the book. I was like, why do you need this book? And then he started saying that the book helps him remember. And I was like, well, what are you needing to remember? And he's like, it helps me remember how to build the spaceships. He's like, I need the book because it helps me. I remember, I don't remember like all the details exactly of what he was rambling on about, but he just kept insisting that he needed the book because it helps his brain remember how to build the spaceships. And I was like, well, where do these, what spaceships are they? And he's like, I build these really big spaceships that we get all the people on, and then we, leave. And then he kept pointing. He went and opened up the window to point to the moon because I didn't know what he was talking about, like what word he was trying to say. And so he was getting at is that he builds the spaceships. I don't know what people he picks up, but he takes the people and they go to the moon. And then so we ended up giving him the book back, and he was so excited.
First, remember we asked him, I said, by Ryan, you're going to get scared. And you remember what he said?
Oh, wait. I don't remember.
Yeah, because remember, we were saying we're going to get scared. He's like, I'm not scared anymore. He's like, I understand now, something like that.
Yeah, he did say something that, he wasn't scared of it anymore. And actually, too, ever since when he explained why he needed it and saying he wasn't scared, he didn't wake up crying anymore because of it. And he
Yeah,
was still, taking the book with
right.
him, looking
But
at it
then,
every day.
right. But then, the things as I was mentioning before, how he was generally, then he started being in this childlike way very weird. So, for example, like, tell about the incident when you were trying to give him a bath and what was happening.
Oh yeah, he was in the bath, and I think he was just by himself because a lot of times him and Adeline they take baths together. And I think I had already taken him out, or taken her out, and I asked him if he wanted to get out yet, and he said no, that he needed to sit and he needed to be alone so he can think about how to build his spaceship.
Right. And so
Yeah,
this is a very
and so I left him
uncharacteristic.
there.
Yeah. Well, it's if we've known him before, and then all these ways of talking and the things he mentioned after, it was a night and day difference because he doesn't. This is. I'm not saying every single child does that, but the way he was growing up and the way he was developing from 1 to 2 to 3, 4, he was not, a very imaginary child to where he would talk about things and people here, people there, and this, he was just normal child that plays. And then all of a sudden, something in that dynamic happened to where, an event occurred, something was happening, that we weren't too privy to, but that he was basically knew a lot more about than we understood.
Oh, you're right. And then also, just to let everyone know, we don't talk to our kids about this kind of stuff. It's like even though we're into it and that's almost our day-to-day, lives in a way, we don't sit and have conversations with our kids, especially, at 5 about aliens and UFOs and stuff like that.
Yeah, not at all. That's why when he
Yeah.
saw that book and he was like, "What's that?" I mean, that tells you right there that there was no mentioning, no storytelling, nothing at all. So anyway,
Right.
so I wanted to, I think, thank you for just helping me retell this and keep this in mind. So I just wanted to bring you
He
in to kind of help me
finally,
tell it.
right, because I don't remember how long he was going on and on about the spaceship and the book, but he finally kind of just quit talking about it, and he still has the book. He keeps it in his room and looks through it all the time, but he doesn't. He didn't continue talking about the spaceship
Right.
and everything about it.
Yeah, except for occasion, like he would see some pictures and then
Right,
he would
yeah.
say what it is. He can't read yet, but he would have his understanding of what that is. But it's not a long, drawn out story. He would point at a picture, say what that is, and then he'll just walk away. It's not like he sits there and says, like kids usually do, and they embellish a story and add characters and things like that. So, but anyway, it was an event that was definitely something for us to have learned from. And moving forward, I don't know how else we would approach it other than to just, as we already discussed, to stay open-minded about what he says. But I'm glad the horrifying part, which is the discomfort and those night terrors, have stopped. And so that's what I'm happy about. Everything else can just be talked about and figured out, and not have to seeing him in distress all the time.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you. I really appreciate it. I know you got to go, but thanks for helping me retell this. And so I'll switch over and continue the show here. But thanks. I love you. I appreciate
Okay.
it.
I love you.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, bye. So there you have it. Basically, that's the other part that we were dealing with. And so I guess with every family and life, it's another thing to deal with. But I'm hoping that we'll learn more, from it, just to how to deal more of from a perspective of a parent and a kid. Because how much do we need to intervene? How much do we need to let him sort things out? Because I've had the experiences that I've had, and I know and understand exactly what that means. I know how much fear it had brought me. And I had started very young too, but I was 11, not exactly 5. And so, anyway, I don't want to get to a point to where now all of a sudden, I do a 180, forget about everything that I've ever experienced, and understanding of what's going on, and be fully against this. What I was against, obviously, was seeing him suffering. But now that that's not happening, I'm hoping that we can just continue and have him just tell us what he experiences, instead of it being, something fearful, or something to be dealt with in a negative manner. So there you have it. That's all I have for today. That's what I wanted to cover and talk about. I will probably next I'm going to have open lines to where some of you can that wish can call in and share some of your stories. And for that, you need Telegram. So I'm hoping you download and install Telegram on your phone so that you can talk to me directly. And I will, on the UFO Hub group on Telegram, I usually will open up a chat window to where you can also, while you're watching, you can also listen on the chat itself, but it's off sync by so many seconds. So you might want to choose either just listening or watching while you're waiting online. It might throw you off, but you can basically that way, if you tap and raise your hand, you can basically, you'll give me a cue that, hey, there's somebody that wants to talk, and it's not here just to listen, and I will then cue you in and bring you in to tell your story. So anyway, all the links are in the description below. All the documents that I've showed you, all the links that are in relation to the UFO Hub channel, everything else you need there. And good to, I guess, be back again, hoping that I will have interviews coming up very soon. But anyway, after a long hiatus and after all the things that I've talked about that have been going on, I'm hoping now to come back with somewhat of a regular schedule. So thank you all again. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Take care.